All right. He has told many, many stories, but never at a live storytelling event. He's the founder and CEO of the e-commerce website DealGenius.com, which he started in his parents' basement. Many gray hairs later, he recently rang in his milestone 40th birthday, and the business celebrated its 15th year. When he's not working, you can find him swinging on the flying trapeze where he works as a catcher or walking his new dog, which was his wife's idea. He's a proud father of 2 sons and an extremely lucky husband to have a beautiful wife. Please put your hands together for Chris Matsakis!
I rarely wear a coat, and I'm not really sure why. It might be because I don't get cold very often. It might be because I don't like the hassles of dealing with one, or it could be because my mom incessantly tried to make me wear one as a kid. She was persistent. You know, she was an operating room nurse, and she tried such scare tactics such as frostbite, pneumonia, and my favorite, gangrene. The year was 1999, and I had the opportunity to study abroad. I was a junior in college in Greece, and I went with a close friend of mine, Evan. And packing for this, it was a 6-month trip, and I packed my bags. And I remember my mom really trying to help me pack. And it was really difficult for her, probably because I made it difficult. And as we're packing my bags, done packing, she gives me this last-minute gift and surprises me with a coat. Yes, a brand new brown genuine leather jacket. And although it went against all my values and principles, I agreed to bring that coat. And even when she was saying goodbye and saying, have a great time, she said, promise me you'll wear that coat. I did, but you get this, Greece doesn't get that cold, so it just stayed in my bags the whole time. Until one weekend, my friend Evan and I went to go visit our other friend Tom in Vienna. And Tom is one of these guys, he speaks a dozen languages, he's like a travel guide, so we kind of left the getting around Vienna up to him. And in Vienna it was winter, and it was cold, so I brought my coat. The second night, we go out with Tom's friends to this club, and it was 2 stories, and it was packed, and it had these like fog machines going that was blowing that chalk smoke. And so we check in our coats, and Evan, Tom, and I check it in, but the guy only gives us one number, number 22, and which I thought was kind of odd. And so I went upstairs, and the group now wants to go to a different place right away. Talking about this bar, it's kind of nearby. So I look at Evan and Tom and I say, you know, we should go. This is kind of not our place. And they said, oh, we just ordered a drink. And so I'm like, but Tom's like, you know what? I know where it is. We'll go there. It's about just a few minutes away. But then I remembered I checked my coat. And the group's walking out the door and I want to catch up to that group and I have to make a quick decision. So I look at Evan and I say, whatever you do, don't forget my coat. And I look at Tom and I say, whatever you do, don't forget my coat. And I got a bunch of yeahs and come-ons. And keep in mind, at this point in the conversation, we were all sober. And so I'm running up to the group. They're practically out the door and I panic. And I say, they're going to forget my coat. But then I remember, I go, it's impossible because we all checked under one number. So when they bring the coats, even if they forget, they're going to see my coat. So we go to this other bar, and it's great, but 10 minutes pass, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4. There was no Evan, there was no Tom, the most important, no coat. And they want to go back, and I'm excited to go back too. And so we get back to the dorm, I'm walking up the steps, thinking that they're going to be in the room, and the coat's going to be hanging up, and this is done. But they're not there. And I want to tell you that I was worried about my friends. I was worried about telling my mom. At 4 a.m., in comes Evan, drunk as can be, and falls in the bed and says, you'll never believe what happened to me. We were at this club. Yeah, I know. And he's like, we were doing these shots. I was like, shots? And he's like, yeah, and we were dancing, and Evan, Tom ditched me. Couldn't find him anywhere. I don't remember where our place was, but I remember it was in the part of the town called House Erasmus. And I got in the cab, and that's like being here and saying, take me to Lincoln Park. So he said, then I thought I could see it, and I walked around for 2 hours, and every street in Vienna looks the same. And he's like, I gave up, I was tired, I found this sidewalk, and I was gonna lay down, I looked up, and there it was. And I said, Evan, do you have my coat? And he says, oh no, I gotta go get that, like the good friend that he is. But then as he's saying those words, he passes out of the bed. I I still can't sleep. 30 minutes later, Tom comes in, even drunker. I hear the key, and I go, right away, Tom, do you have my coat? And he's like, what coat? And I say, we need to go back. We need to go back to that first club right now. And he's like, let's go. So we start walking, and he's like, let's just go back tomorrow. And I go, it's going to be gone. It's going to be stolen. We got to go now before it's too late. It's like 5 in the morning. And he goes, Chris, they don't steal in this country. Nobody steals in this country. I'm like, yeah, he's like, look, I can put my wallet on the ground. Next day, someone's going to return it to me. I'm like, Tom, we need to go. And he goes, let's just get some food. So we compromised, and I let him bring the food on the train, which wasn't a good idea. I mean, it literally was like 15 minutes, but he didn't puke. We made it back to the club. Okay, and it was just like in the movies. I walk in, it's empty, there's no trace of a club anywhere. There's just some lady vacuuming in the back. And I go into the coat room, and all I see is empty hangers. I'm like, Tom, I told you they stole my coat. And he goes, look, I'll go talk to her, because he spoke fluent German. So he goes and talks to the lady, and after about 5 minutes, the conversation gets heated. Then I'm thinking, oh man, it's just a coat, And then they start arguing and yelling. I run over, I pull Tom aside, and I say, what did she say about my coat? And he says, oh, she doesn't know. So I said, what were you yelling about? And he goes, oh, we were discussing the politics. I said, Tom, we gotta focus. There's another level, let's go down there. But there was no cold room down there. There was another empty room, and there's this shady group of guys in the back drinking, tripping on something, and I didn't want to go over there. So I sent Tom over there, and I said, we got it, we're here, let's just go ask them. So then, the guy comes over, and he says something, mumbles something to me in German. I look at Tom, and he goes, what number? I go, 22. And so the guy turns around, and he reaches into like a stainless steel restaurant cooler and hands me my coat. Tom says, see, I told you nobody steals my coat. And it's a good thing that they don't, because I was glad to get that back. And 20 years later, I have it hanging in my closet. And 20 years later, I still don't wear it. It reminded me of a story my father told me about this Spartan mother whose son was going off to war. She said, son, come back with your shield or on it. And for me, it was like Vienna in this coat. And look, I didn't realize this at the time. But I now know that I went on a journey, not so much because I cared about that coat, but because I cared about my mother.